What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectibles, and today it's a very exciting one. Today I'm going to be showing you my process of painting, weathering, and hairing this beautiful Michael Myers blank casting from my dear friend Victor Andre over at Val Horror Props. What you see here is a hand-sculpted latex casting of his Michael Myers mask entitled Hallway Reaper 1978. Now, this is based off the castle stretch look from the original 1978 Halloween film. Most notably, that shot of Nick Castle in the Michael Myers mask at the very end when he's standing at the top of the hallway. So not only do I have a blank casting, but this is a finished one from Victor. So he also sent me a blank to do as a custom collectible. So a very big thank you for sending one of those blanks, man. So I'm really excited to paint this thing up. It is a gorgeous looking sculpt. Like, the castle stretch is such a unique look. Now, in terms of my finish, it's going to be a little bit different compared to Victor's. The original Michael Myers mask, it was just painted an appliance white out of a rattle can by Tommy Lee Wallace, and you relied on Dean Cundy's beautiful cinematography to highlight all the detail. But the way I'm going to paint it, because it's a custom collectible, we got to weather it dirty, filthy, disgusting, to make it look like the thing had gone through the absolute ringer, but also highlighting Victor's beautiful detail that he has put into this sculpt. Now, we do have a few surface imperfections we've got to take care of, and I've already drawn out the eyes. I am really nervous about cutting the eyes. Eye cuts on a Myers mask can make or break the final look. But before we do the eye cuts, like I said, we've got to patch up some surface imperfections. So with that being said, let's get to it. Alrighty, as you can see right here, we've got a few open air bubbles. So not just here, but a few bits and pieces around here. So we're just gonna do some patchwork with some liquid latex. Now, you can also use different brands of rubber cement, stuff that you can control a lot more. We just need a little bit of liquid latex in these open air pockets just to seal up that area, hit it with a hairdryer, and then we can move on to cutting out the eyes, the mouth, and the nostrils. Okay, you wanna try and get as much in there as you can. Really fill in that hole without it getting all air bubbly and having no other air trapped in there essentially. So you really wanna just kind of scrape it in and force it inside that open air bubble. Now I'm also just gonna blend it around the edge like so. All right, I've taken the mask off the head form. I've got my very fine cutting shears. So I'm gonna very carefully cut around, take our time, because again, the eye cuts can make or break the final look of a mask. I've also, just with some lead pencil, marked out the mouth opening. So it has a very distinct mouth opening when it comes to the castle stretch. All right, so I'm just gonna grab some baby wipes and give him one final wipe just to clean off any grease, grime, dirt, especially from my hands before we do our base coat of a nice Kirk flesh. I'm really happy with how those patch jobs went as well. The eyes, the nostrils, and the mouth opening, pretty happy. Like, there are people out there like James Carter and stuff that just know how to do this stuff blindfolded, which is incredible. Now, when it comes to the base Kirk flesh, I have these 3 airbrush colors right here. So I've taken a light skin tone. We also have warm skin tone and just a soupçon of Hull Red. Now I've watered it down with some airbrush medium. I don't actually mean by watered down, but this kind of makes it more liquid, and then it feeds through the airbrush without losing the color. Put it all in this plastic container here, give it a nice shake. And I think it's a pretty good match to a nice base Kirk flesh. So we're gonna get our airbrush, feed it through, and do our first base coat on the mask. All right, pretty happy with how the base Kirk flesh tone has turned out. Now, in terms of the white, the off-white, I've got a MIG, or MIG airbrush color matte white. I also have a light rust, just a little bit, just a absolute little bit to make it that off-white. And again, mixed in with the Liquitex airbrush medium. in this little vial here ready to go. Now, ideally for the finish, I'm gonna do this in stages. I'm gonna mist a little bit on, you know, bit by bit just to see how it looks. I want some flesh tone showing through on the neck, back of the ears, but just to get that nice even coverage for that beautiful kind of blank canvas before we go in by hand and do all the weathering. So again, this is gonna be very touch and go on the Lazy Susan, just spraying how we go. Again, trying to leave certain areas like under the chin, bits of the neck, and possibly behind the ears, you know, just for a bit of continuity where Tommy Lee Wallace would have sprayed the mask back in the day, and some parts would have overshot and left some exposed Kirk flesh. But we'll see how we go. Alrighty, now that the airbrush side of things was dried, I gave this piece a light little mist of clear plastic dip just to seal everything in, because we're about to do a wash. The last thing you want is the water-based wash getting in and biting onto that white and then going back to the original raw latex stage. So next up, we're gonna be grabbing some good old-fashioned black shoe polish, watering it down, and this is gonna be our base wash. The rest of the steps are mostly gonna include oil colors, doing all the highlights on the lips, stuff like that, highlighting the eyebrows and dirtying up the ears. Because again, I know that for the most part, the mask used in the first Halloween was just a stark white and it was based on Dean Cundy's beautiful cinematography. But at the same time, I want this grungy, gnarly, and just highlighting all the beautiful detail in Victor's sculpt. So once again, we're gonna be using some good old-fashioned black shoe polish. Just got a little ceramic cup here. I'm just gonna add a little bit of water. In terms of the ratio, I just eyeball it, just whatever kind of looks good once mixed up. And then also, we don't want something too thick that it's gonna go in and stain the surface of the mask. So you can always do a test on the top of the head where the hair is gonna be. I think just a little bit more water. Alrighty, let's get to it. Especially in the eyebrows there. Now it is sort of beading away and that's fine. You know, we can always just start dabbing it on like so. Again, this is just like a base wash. So it's more or less just to set the tone of the grunginess of the mask. Get in all the crevices of the ears, especially on the neck. We want the neck looking nice and grungy. Okay, we're just gonna grab a paper towel, start dabbing away that excess. Oh, look at that already. Beautiful, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, nice. That's looking much better. Look at that. Just brings out those details and makes them pop. Go around the back here. All right, so this turned out a lot better than I was expecting. So if there are certain areas that are built up with a bit too much shoe polish or wash for that matter, you can just grab a very little bit of isopropyl alcohol, lightly mist it on the surface, and just grab yourself a scourer sponge and lightly scour away the excess. Now, once you do that, grab yourself a paper towel or whatever, tissue, whatnot, a rag, to even it all out so it doesn't go smudgy again. Now, I did leave the bottom here a bit grimy, just makes sense, you know, built up from taking the mask on and off. So now this is the fun part. This is the part I'm really looking forward to. We're gonna go in and start detailing like the lips, cheeks, shadows, highlights, everything, eyebrows. So I'm gonna be starting off with a Payne's Gray Winton oil color, Winsor & Newton oil color. I love working with oil colors. They just have a much more natural feel on a surface. So what we're gonna be doing is dry brushing certain details on. So obviously you guys, you know, the art of dry brushing on this channel is getting as little as possible on the brush and then highlighting and doing all bits and bobs and stuff like that. You know, the lips, the upper part of the lip, but I'm gonna be starting out with the eyebrows, just very lightly dragging it over the eyebrows. Because from what I can see, there are like little subtle highlights here and there on the eyebrows, but again, as little as possible on the brush. Beautiful, just subtle enough that it's not too harsh in comparison to the rest of the mask. Just highlighting the lips as well. So the reason why I'm using the gray as opposed to say an ivory black is this kind of emulates the blue lighting that Dean Cundy did in the original Halloween. So it's kind of like a subtle approach. And again, like for the most part, the mask was a stark white in the film, but I want this grungy, grimy, and just by doing it with a neutral gray, it kind of pays homage to Dean Cundy's blue lighting. Just that nice 80s horror blue lighting. Just also dragging it across the chin area there. Now also we can do areas like, you know, the sides of the nose here with those cheek sags right here. Again, just a little dab will do. You really want to take your time with this one. And it's subjective, you know, some people like heavy weathering. I just want subtlety where it looks like it's constantly lit from certain angles and casting shadows over certain details. Just to add a bit of extra highlighting to the eyebrows, I'm just gonna grab some burnt umber, again, oil color, and just get a very tiny little bit and just drag it over the eyebrows just to really make them pop. Again, just as light as we can go. See how this looks. That just gives it a bit more grunge. Just that extra bit of grunge on the eyebrows. Just lift that part up there. That's better. That's what I was looking for. I do have some ivory black, and this is more or less just to drag across the high points of the ears. Again, this is kind of going to be like a H2 hybrid where the weathering on the mask in H2 was pretty severe. So again, just dragging it over the high tops of the ears, just very lightly. Again, just more like wear and tear, bit of traffic, not too much. And if you get a bit too heavy, just wipe some excess away with your fingers, and also just like certain parts of the neck as well. You thought I wasn't going to do any shitty commentary, did you? So now that I'm all happy with how the mask looks paint-wise, I've gone ahead and drawn with a lead pencil the hairlines. So we're going to be using crepe hair. Now, most times out of 10, a lot of mask rehaulers, Michael Myers mask artists use mohair and they blend it together. I love crepe hair, but obviously you do have to prep it. It comes all plaited together and you have to get a hair straightener and straighten it all out. Sometimes you can even soak it in warm water and it'll straighten out. I just find using a hair straightener just speeds up the process. Now, I'm trying my best to cut all the pieces as evenly as possible, even though we're going to be giving this guy a massive haircut, and you are going to lose a lot of hair in the process. So I've just got one of my silicone block molds. I think this is for teeth, and the reason why I'm using that is to smear the contact adhesive. We're going to be using Gorilla Glue contact adhesive with a little barbecue skewer. Smear it into the hair, and that way it won't stick to the silicone, because nothing wants to stick to silicone other than silicone. This is probably the most fiddliest part, but it's also satisfying once it's all done. So row by row, smearing it in, whereas we get to the hairline, I glue it the opposite direction. Instead of going backwards, I have it going forwards. Now it has such a unique hairline, obviously, because they ripped those sideburns off the original Captain Kirk mask, especially on the left temple. It kind of bows down, then buckles up. So after giving it a massive brush and getting the proper dreads out and getting it all blended together, we're going to give him a nice big haircut and also a brush as well. Now also I sprayed some VO5 hairspray in, and I just grabbed some more of that contact adhesive to do the glue residue lines that we see on the hero from when they ripped those sideburns off the original Don Post Captain Kirk mask. So that was nice and easy. But going back to styling the hair, it's totally subjective because the hair has so many looks. Now obviously being a dirty blonde, an ash blonde that we use to try and replicate the Kirk mask, we got to dye it. But in this case, we're just going to be spraying like regrowth spray. So pretty similar to what Tommy Lee Wallace used for the original Halloween. This is a L'Oreal regrowth spray. I use this a lot, especially when it comes to cosplays and I need to have my hair darker, like bordering on black. So I'm using a dark brown. And what I love is the blonde kind of bleeds through certain areas of the mask. So it really kind of gives it some depth. And also you do have to be careful with this stuff because it spits a lot, as you can see right there. I've even got a piece of paper, but it kind of worked in my favor because it added a bit of extra weathering to certain parts of the mask. Now you think we'd be all done, but no, I'm going to go one step further. We're going to do a life-size bust, and I'm keen to show you guys the process. Alright, so for the torso portion of the display, I found a cheap mannequin male torso on Facebook Marketplace for 20 bucks. So I'm here in Auburn in Sydney. I have not been out to Auburn for so long. Like, it's another part of the world. So they've said to call when I'm ready, and I can see they've got like a shop front there. So just give them a call. And for 20 bucks, not bad at all. I might actually grab 2 because, you know, these are perfect blank canvases for these displays. They're skin colored, so they're ready to go. It is so hot out here. It's like another world out here. It's crazy. Either that or it's all a ruse and I'm about to get kidnapped. Godspeed. All right, got it. It's all wet. I don't know what it is, but for 20 bucks, I'm not complaining. So we're gonna go home. I got my angle grinder. We'll carve this thing out, get it all shaped. Get it? Ew. Yeah. It's all wet, but it was 20 bucks. Now, once I cleaned all that disgusting moisture off this thing, it was time to get to work to line up how I want the bust to look and how we're going to cut it. So I'm just using duct tape to draw out and stencil out how I want it to look. And again, like a nice museum piece. And as you can see, we're really professional here, out on my veranda or out on my balcony, barefoot. So I'm going to get the good old angle grinder and start to carve away or grind away and cut into where I want the shape to be. Now, actually, originally, as you can see there, I had the lines a lot further in. I've actually placed them a lot more outwards. So again, going for that nice museum look with the V shape, and that's separated pretty easily. And it's great because as opposed to fiberglass, this is like an injection molded plastic. So the head mount I'm going to be using is a spare Robert Englund foam life cast I had laying around. I generated this thing a couple of years ago. So I actually found this by accident. This is an adjustable foot, like furniture foot, that I found at Bunnings that has a brilliant swivel on it that will hold the weight of the head. So that way we can turn the head once the mask is on there, get all different kinds of poses. Just got some cheap and nasty super glue and glued it on. And obviously being foam, the thread just threaded straight into the foam head. As you can see that we get full movement. So this is like a happy little accident. Now, in terms of the floating arm, this is a spare mannequin arm I had at mum and dad's place in storage. So just grab that, cut off. So we've just got that little bit of the forearm. Now for the base, I'm actually using a stool from Kmart. This is the perfect base I want. Nice, simple, museum quality. And I actually wanted a retro orange looking base, just something to kind of complement and go with the theme of Halloween. So I'm just using a nice gloss Rust-Oleum orange. So I'm going to grab another one of those adjustable furniture feet and glue that onto the base, and that is going to house our forearm with the floating arm / knife, so I can move that around as well as the head. Now when it comes to the actual hand, I'm going to be using Supercast to cast a resin casting. Now I actually offer these hands on my Etsy store. I do not only that hand, but also the shotgun hand from Halloween 2018 when Michael gets his hands blasted off. So mix ratio is 100 to 100. Add a bit of flesh tint in there, and I do 3 slush coats. Let that sit for about half a day, and then we can demold it. And it's a standard glove mold with a mother mold, a fiberglass mother mold. And it's time to start cleaning this thing up and getting rid of all that excess. So I actually use a wire attachment on my rotary tool to get rid of the seam line, because sometimes the seam lines can be a lot worse, but then they can also be pretty seamless. Depends on how you place it in the mold. Now I'm actually just going to go in. This is a Titans ammo spray. This is also a primer, but this is a flesh colored spray. So I'm going to lightly spray the hand, not go heavy on it, and then also lightly spray the neck so the both of the hand and the neck match as well, because we are going to have the neck on display obviously. So I've gone ahead and got some cheap and nasty super glue and glued that to the forearm, and I've just poked a little hole in the side there where it's going to mount on the pole. Now I'm just going to grab some black and brown shoe polish, water it down a bit just to dirty up the hands a little bit. So I'm not going for bloody this time around. Obviously I don't have the knitting needle hole on the neck. This is pre-knitting needle hole in the neck. Now the knife I'm using is actually a Trick or Treat Studios Halloween 1978 replica knife. This is a replica of the Case and Sons knife that they used for the film, but it is way too mirrored on the blade, as you can see right there, and you can also see me. There I am. Hello. So we got to dull this blade back. So I'm going to get a very fine steel wool and lightly go over the blade. You don't want to go too heavy, because then you are going to expose the black plastic under there. So you will scuff that chrome away if you go too heavy. So just in little intervals, lightly go over it. As you can see right there, it's dulled the blade and makes it look a lot more natural. So I'm just going to grab some black shoe polish, watered down just a little bit, and we're going to go over the blade and dab away the excess just to really weather that blade up. And totally subjective, you know, you can always add some blood on there and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm going clean this time around, pre-knitting needle to the neck, dabbing away that excess, and it gets into that nice crevice where the handle is right there. So I was pretty happy with how that turned out. Nice and simple, took all but 15 minutes. And as you can see, we've got the adjustable arm there on a aluminium rod, or pole I should say. Now to actually insert the handle of the knife in the hand, we just got to hit it with a heat gun or a paint stripper gun. And that's how I've designed these things. Clients have to heat them up like so, and then they can wedge their knife of choice into the hand like that, whether it's a 78 hand or a 2018 hand. And with that, I think it's time for the final reveal. And there you go, guys. Beyond stoked how this turned out. This was a lot of fun. Obviously, initially we were just going to be painting up and hairing the mask, but I wanted to go one step further and make him a life-size museum type bust. Now I went another step further and printed off a Halloween logo and got a Perspex frame from Kmart, popped it in there, and just pop it on the front of the bust that you'll see in a minute. So with that being said, wherever you are in the world, please have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you're well. Hope you're happy. Be merry, be silly. And until next time, ghouls and ghoulettes, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.